All right, man. So we got some huge new updates. I did promise I would keep you guys in the loop, not just on the presidential race, but everything that's going on, because there's actually a possibility that the Democrats are actually able to win a trifecta. And there seem to be a couple of new avenues potentially opening up. So the main race we're looking at for the Senate right now is the Montana race with Tester in the race. But there appears to be a new one that might be breaking through. So this is a new poll that came out. It's Nebraska Senate polling. Fischer is a Republican, polling at 43%, and Osborn is an independent, polling at 41%. This is a YouGov poll, August 12, 2024, sample size 500. It's an internal poll, so we can take a look at these polls here. Now, in terms of internal polling, they're sponsoring the poll, but they're paying reputed pollsters to do the polls. So they have multiple of these, right? They have YouGov. I don't know who Red Wave Strategy is, but they also have Triple P. So they're just paying them. So I think that these being sort of these pollsters that are sponsored by, I don't think really matters in terms of anything, unless they're having some input on what the pollster is doing, which I'm not aware of, or I guess maybe they could have some kind of like conflict of interest, you could say, because they're being paid by the candidacy. But typically, I feel like a lot of the polls don't go back to the same pollster, so I'm not really sure what it would be, honestly, like the motivation there, but they might go back sometimes. But even here, you can see it's 3 different sponsored pollsters, right? So they chose 3 different pollsters. But Osborn is only down 2 points against Fischer in this poll. It was even in this other poll from Red Wave Strategy Group / Impact Research. I don't know who that is. Deb Fischer, Torchlight Strategies. I don't know who this pollster is. This is sponsored by Deb Fischer, but the thing for me is not that it's sponsored by Deb Fischer, but rather that who's Torchlight Strategies. I've never heard of that before. It sounds almost like, I don't know, like a YouTube channel like the Russian hacker or whatever. I don't know. It just sounds kind of weird. But plus 26 for Fischer from Torchlight Strategies. We know who PPP is. We know Triple P. They have Fischer only plus 4. Change Research I've heard of as well. This is from November, though. It was a long time ago. And then we know who YouGov is. These are actual reputed pollsters. Who the fudge is Torchlight Strategies? But these are all sponsored pollsters. The only weird thing about Osborn, though, is pretty interesting. So he's kind of spurning the Democratic Party. He's running as an independent. I think the Democrats feel kind of blindsided. But typically, independents will choose a party to caucus with. Now, so you'd have to bet on him choosing the Democrats to caucus with. If he doesn't choose a party, I think it's kind of unprecedented as to what would happen if he was the seat that it came down to determining the majority. But he's running on like this very pro-union, pro-worker platform, so presumably he doesn't fit in the Republican Party, but it's not entirely clear, and he's running against a Republican in the general. But it would be really, really crazy to see what would go down if he's the deciding vote for the majority, where it's like a 50-50, and then whoever he chooses with is at that 50-50 number. It would be really crazy to see what ends up happening. But so Dan Osborn providing a new possible pathway here, and a new possible pathway is absolutely massive, because what we're looking at here, this is the typical map that we're looking at for our Senate race. So this would be 50-50. This is assuming Kamala Harris wins. You only need 50 seats to be able to win the Senate, because you'd have Tim Walz as the tiebreaker if Kamala is able to win, which I think there's a good chance that Kamala is going to win. So what you would have to do is, in this circumstance, I have Arizona, in which Ruben Gallego is winning against Kari Lake, and I think Kari Lake is sort of a crazy person. And so I think she's one of those crazy people that they're definitely going to be probably motivated to vote against progressives. Progressives will be motivated to vote against her. So I think Arizona holds. He has solid leads. I think Sherrod Brown in Ohio has solid leads, so it seems like a strong incumbent. All of like Casey and those people in Duckworth and whatever in the MeWe Penn states here. Slotkin I think might be kind of like looks to be the sort of vulnerable one, but they seem to be pretty strong incumbents generally. So I think they're all going to end up holding. West Virginia is definitely gone. Texas is not going to flip. But another route is, so this would be the only way if you're to have this outcome, right? Is you would have to pull MT. Tester has to win. So if we look at Tester's numbers here, if we were to go back and see what Tester's numbers are, so he had a recent poll that was good in that he's actually up by 5 points. You can see here. All the previous polls have him down, unfortunately, but they're not like massive downs. It's like 6 and 2 and 5, whatever. It's not like outside of potential polling errors and that kind of thing. So, but there's a poll that has him up 5, which is massive, absolutely giving us a lot of hopium to run off of. But another way I guess would be if you have Nebraska go blue, you could have Montana go red, and you could still have 50-50. That would be assuming that you could get you could get Osborn to be down to caucus with you if he is elected. He spurned the Democratic Party, so it's not entirely clear. But there's these kinds of pathways. So this gives us another potential pathway we can open up. Now, another important thing here that I want to mention also that may help you in Montana. It says Montana initiative to protect abortion rights makes November ballot, becoming 8th state to do so this year. So hopefully this is going to be something that's popular in the state of Montana. I guess one way this could backfire. If this issue is not popular in the state of Montana, it could backfire and that people would be motivated to come out to vote against it if you're Republican. So I guess I'm not super keen on Montana's like abortion support. But this could be huge. This is in many, many states that could really lead the Democrats to victory in terms of presidency and in other races. Because people would be motivated to come out to vote, especially for someone like Kamala Harris in a state like I just did a video about Arizona, where, you know, they have also this, and so this is going to be absolutely massive for the state of Arizona and these states for someone like Kamala Harris, she's making women surge all over the country. Her numbers are just going through the roof with women voters, so they're just surging all over basically. So the Senate, you have two pathways now potentially. The Dan Osborn numbers aren't too bad in terms of like, I know they're sponsored by him, but they're reputed pollsters and they're swapping pollsters. They're not using the same one. So I don't think the fact that it's sponsored really means all that much. I know sometimes we'll kind of buy into the hype of that kind of thing of like, oh, well, it's just Trump is losing in a sponsored poll or whatever. Unless the sponsored poll is using a pollster like Rasmussen, where it is someone who's like, or I guess Rasmussen, I would be sure if they're like the pollster, they're the sponsor of those polls typically. But this allows you for two potential pathways to be able to hold the Senate. In the other way, also, we want to check out what's going on in the House. So we could check out the generic ballot polls. This typically uses the main one to determine what's going on. So what we know is from the news articles, Kamala Harris's new position has stemmed the Senate Democrat races who are already incumbents. I did a story on that. Check that out if you want more deets on that. But also, we're taking a look here at the the House. So we can see that the House, the Democrats were actually struggling. They were down pretty much the entire time. And then Kamala Harris takes a rise, and almost entirely in sync, there's a divergence going on, right? We have the divergence here, right? So now you have a 1.4% lead, and we're seeing some good ones in terms of like +2 for this Emerson poll, +2 for this one. So there were some of these like kind of Democrat or Republican polls that were coming out, so like heavy Republican ones. But we can see that these ones are getting some good like +2s and such. So we can see that there is this divergence in favor of Democrats, 1.4. When we look at the generic ballot polling for the aggregator in 538, they have Democrats up by 1.1, but the last time this was updated was August 15th, so they're slacking and lacking on that. This one is recent, but it looks like they've had this for a while now. So it's good to look at different aggregators because different aggregators will include different things and such of that nature. So super interesting stuff going on here. So you have this like 46.9 to 45.5. So even the generic ballot polls. So there's a legitimate chance that there's a trifecta. And we got to figure out a better word than trifecta. I can't even say like a triple win because like what are you winning? Because I can't say 3 branches because obviously it's just 2 of the branches, right? But yeah, really huge. And Osborn is opening up another way. But again, Osborn is like this weird kind of wild card where we'd have to bank on him being down to caucus with the Democrats. You'd have to rely on him actually doing that. So, and it's not entirely clear if he's going to do that. But Dan Osborn, Tester is the other one. He's leading in the recent poll, and then Montana has an abortion rights ballot. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully it's not a bad thing in Montana, in the state of Montana. But and I guess even better if you could win 51, maybe some kind of proof. This is actually potentially a better makeup too, because you're getting rid of Kirsten Sinema's Gonzo, and then in West Virginia, Manchin is also Gonzo, so the obstructionists are gone. I don't think Tester is going to do like any obstructionism or whatever, and then hopefully Dan Osborn will do it. This I think is probably the most best case scenario for Democrats, but all you need is one of these two, and it'll be huge, man. Because then you might be able to get some piecemeals. You're not going to get Medicare for all or anything like that, but you might be able to get some things that will be helpful still. So pretty crazy stuff, man. A trifecta is legitimately possible here. So, and then the Kamala energy, and so the DNC is happening. If the numbers can just shoot up and just, yeah, people are just coconut juices just flowing everywhere, everyone just going crazy. So pretty crazy stuff, man.